A self-proclaimed radical evangelist from Toronto who preaches being gay is a sin is taking his ministry of Intolerance on tour in British Columbia. He's part of a group of so-called street preachers with a history of confrontation. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Melanie Nagy explains.
Vancouver's Davie Village is the city's vibrant gay district, a popular place nestled next to the Pacific Ocean. But lately, the community has become a target for anti-LGBTQ preachers.
Homosexuals will not inherit the kingdom of heaven.
For weeks now, a group called Ministry of the Word has been spreading homophobic rhetoric. And another controversial preacher from Ontario is also spewing similar comments. David Lynn, who was arrested in Toronto last year for disturbing the peace,
it's time that Canada repents,
is now on a West Coast tour. While in Victoria yesterday, he drew a large crowd opposed to his views.
They want to come down here and sort of spew their hate.
That sort of message is not accepted within our community.
We need to focus on loving each other and being kind to one another.
There's also been strong opposition in Vancouver, and in at least 2 cases, it's turned violent.
Now you're going to jail.
One man was assaulted earlier this month after speaking out against the anti-gay messaging. Another is now in hospital after he confronted a preacher last week.
They are there to antagonize.
Justin Morissette's leg was broken and his knee dislocated when he tried to intervene.
I was not going to stand idly back and let these men just verbally attack my neighbors.
Since then, there's been an outpouring of support for Morissette from the LGBTQ community.
There have also been so many people who've reached out to me to say what I did means the world to them.
2 men, one of whom is a preacher, were arrested after the attack. The Vancouver Hate Crime Unit is now investigating Morissette's case and several other confrontations. Melanie Nagy, CTV News, Vancouver.
A Toronto street preacher with a history of using megaphones to spread anti-gay slogans has announced plans to appear in Metro Vancouver tomorrow and Tuesday. David Lynn was chased out of Victoria by protesters last night, and Vancouver is expected to be no different. CTV's Shannon Patterson reports.
This is how David Lynn was greeted in Victoria Saturday night.
God's plan is diversity. You're not preaching God's word. Go home.
The anti-LGBTQ street preacher from Toronto, who began a cross-Canada tour in BC's capital, was drowned out by protesters. No homophobia! No homophobia! And escorted to a taxi by police.
I think he was chased by a group of about 50 people shouting him down, so I don't think he had a very open welcome, but I think at the same time, if he's having his freedom of expression, we as the community have the right to respond.
Anti-gay preachers similar to David Lynn have been setting up in Vancouver's West End all summer.
They pop up, some of them have their speakers, and then they start saying terrible things. A lot of it religious, but also it goes past the line of acceptable speech, especially as a gay man. I find it quite offensive.
And sometimes it gets violent.
This time, there's somebody got beat up.
2 men are facing charges after Justin Morissette was allegedly attacked, his leg badly broken, while confronting street preachers on Davie Street last weekend.
I wish the best to Justin, that he heals up quickly, because it's just so sad.
Now you're going to jail. You're going to jail.
Another man who confronted a preacher at English Bay 2 weeks ago was aggressively held on the ground.
They don't want a conversation, they want provocation.
So for David Lynn's Metro Vancouver stops, protesters are planning a colorful response.
We need to defend our community by, in my case, waving a flag, dancing around, just trying to be a helpful, almost distraction, because I don't want to give him the attention. I want to create a buffer between him and community members.
We'll be talking with the police about what we can do. There are some, hate speech, whether you can charge it as a crime or just denounce it. It depends on what's said, so we'll be monitoring that situation very closely, but I find it just despicable.
In Victoria, Lynn was told in no uncertain terms he's not welcome, and the LGBTQ community says he'll get the same message here. Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
A self-proclaimed radical evangelist from Toronto who preaches being gay is a sin is taking his ministry of Intolerance on tour in British Columbia.